I came across it online somewhere, and the title of the article said, pissing people off is actually safer than playing it safe. And so when I read that article about pissing people off, it made sense to me. I was like, because when we see things and read things and hear things that are generic and safe, we kind of mentally yawn and move on. If you have a very specific problem, and I go, here's how I help, here's what I do, and I name your pain, and I take that away in just a couple of weeks. Profitability is at stake. You need to take it away right away. Success favors speed, so when you get the problem taken away immediately, people will pay a premium for certainty. And what happens is blending in happens. Because when you start copying other people, you become more of the same. Differentiation is the opposite. It's almost like, look at what everybody else is doing in your space, see what they're not doing, and then nail that. Differentiation, if you had to just nail brand down one thing, it would be that.
Welcome to the Founder's Hustle, where every business has a backstory worth telling. Today's guest is Rob Genovesi, a brand strategist and speaker who has no patience for the corporate crap that keeps small businesses invisible. He is also the author of the book, Don't Fear the Brand, and he spends his time helping founders build brands that actually attract customers. So, Rob, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Great, Judy. Thank you for the opportunity. Excited to be here.
Yeah, appreciate it. So share with our listeners a little bit about what it is that you do. Who do you serve?
Sure. So I am a brand strategist, and it's not a career path that I thought was really cool. And hey, I'll do that. And went to school and got a certification and did all that. I actually fell into it accidentally, really by necessity. My first business back in 2015, I was building websites and not very profitable and knew it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I had to get started because I spent 25 plus years in corporate and I had to get out. And so after some going through the motions of that business and not really able to get the profitability I was looking for, I stumbled across, a client called me one day, honestly, and he needed a website and he was new in his industry and really wanted to make an impact. And he threw the word brand in there in the conversation, and I wasn't doing it at the time. But when he did that, it forced me to think a little differently about how I approached helping my clients. And I switched to a more business perspective, help him build the business, not just provide a website. And it made me think about what he said about brand. I'm like, what is it about brand that fascinates people? Because I didn't really know myself. Well, I dove really deep into it, did remedial brand strategy for him, and he got such amazing results, Judy. I was like, I didn't even know he would get the results he got. And a full year and a half later, he called me up and things were banging for him. He was a contractor and he was working 7 days a week and excited to do so. And he called me up to thank me. And I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. So that's when I actually evolved over time to becoming a brand strategist and helping small businesses realize more profitability through a strong brand. So it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't setting out to help, these large corporations with their branding. That's somebody else. I'm for the small business owner who is working their butt off, but not having the profitability they should have. That's who I help.
So what is your secret sauce? Like when you talk to the listeners that don't understand, when you say brand strategist, like what does that entail? You went from building websites to helping out a contractor that wanted to talk brand, but peel back the layers a little bit. What does that look like?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was very remedial. And most people, Judy, don't understand what brand is. Like we throw it around like it's all like everybody understands it. And I think because it's fairly new to the small business community, what traditionally, historically, brand applied to large companies, Coca-Cola and IBM. And when you thought of brand, you thought about those guys. And so with the rise of social media and people having access to people, right, through social media, through the internet, well, influencers were the first branders because they established their reputation and their personality and called it brand. And that's when everybody started catching on to, oh, oh, yeah, I got to build my brand. So they go on and they produce video or they produce content and they put themselves out there and call it brand. It's such a small piece of it, Judy, that people don't understand what brand strategy is and what it actually is. So, first of all, if you ask 10 different people what brand is, they'll give you 10 different answers, even if they understand. Everything from differentiation to positioning to reputation to, the famous Jeff Bezos quote, it's what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? So, all these are true. But at the end of the day, branding is about differentiation because what most people do is they start out in business and this is I did this same thing, Judy. When I first started in business, I was like, okay, I was a corporate guy, right? So had this corporate mindset. So I looked around at everybody who had website businesses and, oh, I like what they did there and I'll take that. And I like what they did there and I'll take a piece of that. And I cobbled together a quote unquote brand, but it really wasn't a brand. It was just pieces of other people's business and marketing that I started representing as my own. And what happens is blending in happens because when you start copying other people, you become more of the same. Differentiation is the opposite. It's almost like look at what everybody else is doing in your space, see what they're not doing, and then nail that because the brain does not really process the same thing it sees, right? This is why we keep seeing marketing messages over and over again. And after a while, we don't even see it anymore, right? It's the same thing. So the brain just bypasses it. But as soon as something's different, right, the brain goes, hey, wait, what's that there? I've never seen that before. I need to process what that is. So it dwells on it. And then you get you get attention, then you get interest, then maybe you get engagement.
Hmm.
So differentiation, if you had to just nail brand on one thing, it would be that.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I really like that about finding what they are not doing and nail that. Sounds easy. I'm sure it's not. But let's talk about brand and let's take it a little bit off course a little bit and talk about the personal brand identity. So I'm looking at your website, buildstrongbrands.com. On the homepage of your website, you have your own transformation of your brand. So in 2015, there is a photo of yourself, one hand in the pocket, very, very businesslike. You look like your everyday ad sales rep, very clean cut, blazer on, black slacks. There's not a whisker on your face. You look like you're playing it safe. You look like somebody who's going to follow the rules, and you look like you're successful. But then right next to that picture is you in today's state. You've got blue jeans on, your arms are crossed, leather jacket. You've got the train tracks behind you. You've got your newfound facial hair and a very modern, like, don't mess with me persona to you. But what in your life transformed you from 2015 to today? Your brand identity in and of itself has changed. Talk to me about that.
Great observations, and you threw a couple of things in there that were absolutely nailing what was happening there with the quote unquote personal brand, and really to make it very clear, the difference between personal brand and is business brand is the things that people see at the face of the business, right? So you can go to the website and you could, the visuals, of course, but then there's the messaging that comes through, the words and everything. Personal brand really is the person you are representing the business. So they're separate, but they can be very closely linked as mine kind of is because I'm a solo guy, right? So they're inextricably linked. Now, what was happening there in that transformation was when I had that client I talked about, the contractor, when I got him success, I did it for a few more people. I took a very different approach because I was initially just doing it to sell design. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a formally trained graphic designer. That was my education. And I just wanted to sell design because that's what I knew. So I sold it through websites, but I also designed logos and marketing collateral. And I found it very difficult to do that as most designers do. But when I started from the business perspective, what's the business challenge and created a strategy to help them do better business and more profitable business, back it up with the design I found I could sell the design more easily, and then I was like, "Well, wait a minute." I started digging into brand a lot more and realized people pay for brand, for a brand strategy, a strategy that builds the brand so the brand can be leveraged to build the business, right? That's what we see today is when people say build your brand. So the transformation came when I had that. So 2015 photo, people go to my website, Build Strong Brands, you can see that. That was me coming out of corporate. That was me leveraging my mindset of I have to show up the way you expect me to show up, Judy, because if I don't, you won't take me seriously. So that's why I played it safe. You said play it safe. That's exactly what I was doing. And what's interesting about you latching onto that was about that time when I started going, wait, what's this brand thing? My website was all polished and very mainstream and very corporate looking and all that. But by the time I read this article, I came across it online somewhere, and the title of the article said, pissing people off is actually safer than playing it safe.
Ooh,
And I,
pissing people off is safer than playing it safe. All right. Yeah, yeah. Dig into that for me.
yeah, so I was like, wait, what's this? Because, again, you said this too about the photo. Follow the rules. That was me. I was a born rule follower my entire life, playing it safe, following the rules, don't get into trouble. That was me well into my 30s. And so when I read that article about pissing people off, it made sense to me. I was like, because when we see things and read things and hear things that are generic and safe, we kind of mentally yawn and move on, right? Because why? There's the typical nice person, right? And they said nice people finish last. Only because they don't get noticed. They don't get attention. They don't interrupt the brain's thought pattern of what this is. But as soon as we see something that agitates us a little bit, we go, "Hey, what's this?" So a good case in point, when you piss people off. So we look back at the whole Nike and Colin Kaepernick thing way back when. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Colin Kaepernick, when he famously took a knee during the national anthem, and people were outraged, right? How dare he take a knee? That's an insult to this nation and this country, and he's not American, and that shouldn't be in football, and the NFL should be not be in the business of politics and all this, right? He was taking a stand for something he personally believed in. And so there was a lot of pushback to fire him, cancel him. So what did Nike do? Nike ran an ad that had just his face that said something, and I'll be paraphrasing. Um, Take a stand, even if you have to sacrifice everything, because he basically, he lost his football career.
Yeah.
So they leaned into it. And when people were initially to the knee taking, burning their Nike shoes, burning their Nike apparel, they ran that ad with Colin, and Nike had a 60% surge in sales. I think it's 60. I could be wrong, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
That was not to be ignored because of that. So I reflected on that after I read the article, and I went, wait a minute, they leaned into really pissing off a lot of people. Now, a lot of people embraced it, right? Because they felt they were in line with Colin's perspective, but that's not the point. Usually companies play it safe. They try and walk both lines, but you can't do that, right? So they chose to lean in. Their sales soared. They still pissed off a lot of people, but they gained so many lovers that people came over from Adidas and other shoemakers to say, I stand with Nike. I stand with Colin. I stand with you. So while some people were getting pissed, other people were falling in love, new customers, right? So the idea was I was going, I'm I'm playing it safe. I'm trying to get everybody to like me, and we know that's not possible, right? As human beings, not everybody's going to like you no matter what you do, right? And so I started really searching for the person who I was, and I'm like, well, if I know I'm not this corporate guy, even though as a mask I was wearing, and it's all in my book. Um, the mask I was wearing that I took from corporate, and when I realized I was wearing it, was when I went, wait a minute, it's not really who I am. I I don't like to follow the rules. In fact, I started breaking rules in business. I started making my own rules. And that started to come out, and I started realizing who I was and that I'm actually not a very polished guy. I don't really speak very eloquently. I do piss people off sometimes, and I make people uncomfortable sometimes, and I don't do it on purpose. I'm doing it because I care and I want to tell the truth. I don't want to gloss over the truth. So, with that, when you talk about how I look, that's not something contrived. That's just something that was inside me, and I started letting it out little by little. I got rid of the slacks and the shoes and the belt and all that, and just like, I just wanna wear jeans. I came out of corporate. I left corporate in 2019 after 3.5 years of building my business, and I'm like, "I just wanna wear jeans. I don't wanna wear any more collared button-down shirts anymore." And I'm like, "Can I just wear what I wanna wear and be me?" And look, and you said before, it's not easy. And it wasn't easy to fathom that people might reject me. It was easy to do. Like, I just had to kind of say, I don't really care what you think. I can get results for you. And Judy, that was the thing. I was able to get results for me, so they didn't care my clothing. They didn't care what I looked like, whether I liked it or not. I even had a woman say early on, your brand is way too masculine. Women won't go for it. 50% of my clients, easy, are women and
Nice.
have been for a while. So, that leaning into who you are, but also leaning into you help people the unique way you help them helps you to stand out and become known and be not only be, noticed, but be well loved.
No, it all makes such perfect sense, both with your, the personal brand and business brands and just everything about it just makes such perfect sense. But you're being authentically you, which then results in greater and greater business. You care, which results in more business, better clients, and probably attracting the people that you want to help out. Speaking of which, like, talk to me about what are some of your give me an example of one of your better success stories of a client that you've taken on and that even you impressed your own damn self because you did such a good job.
That story of the contract is my favorite because it was the first one, right? And it was kind of like, well, I didn't know. I knew what I was doing. I just had never done it before. So, when I said he called me a year and a half later, and he told me he called to thank me and he got great success. I started doing it for some other clients, and it went beyond, people think logo. Oh, let me see what it looks like. What they mean is the logo. Let me see the logo. Do you have examples of your work you can show me? Let me see the logo. And as a designer, I'll tell you this, the logo is definitely not the brand, but it's actually design comes last. So the strategy comes first. And now I had for a short while I did a community with small business owners so I can teach people in groups. And each one of them had their own levels of success in being able to charge premium. So it doesn't matter what industry you're in, because I have had people in the financial industry, I've had people in the life coaching industry, I had people in the supplements industry, like sales, of that kind of stuff, health industries. I've helped other contractors, I've helped business consultants. And so brand strategy works for everybody. And one of the places where it helps them is the profitability, which most people don't talk about. So when I talk about helping people where I made the most impact, I wouldn't say it was with any one client except for that first one, which was a turning point, sort of trail transformation. But it was in helping small business owners kind of in groups. I did a lot of advising through networking groups, and, all my, my webinars, my master classes, they were all well attended. And people kept following up with me to ask me more questions about it because I helped them just increase their profitability. It's not just about, hey, your brand looks great. I like it. Well, how does it actually help? We have to talk about what you're doing with your time and the clients that you're taking on, because inside of a strong brand are the right clients. Now, I also had to develop tools to be able to vet out the wrong clients. And so it's part of a strategy that helps small business owners not go, if they have a pulse, they're for me. If they're in this room, they're for me. you know, if they say, if they ask me one question, I'm making them a client. Like, that doesn't mean profitability, Judy. That can mean high revenue. Like, oh, my revenue has 2x and 3x. Well, that's great. How about your profitability? Because here's what I learned early on when I was building websites, and again, a very hard thing to be profitable at for me, because it's you have to be a volume business, and I didn't want that. Was I was making in the beginning, I was making about $15 to $20 an hour once I broke it down. Here I am. I'm a grown man in my 40s. Like $15 to $20 an hour is. I think my daughter was making more babysitting, honestly. And I was like, okay, I need to do something here. So I started to, get more higher paying clients by doing bigger websites. So what did that mean? It meant my revenue went up. But you know what also went up? My time input. And so I started late in life. I went out on my own when I was 51. After 25 plus years in corporate, my first the business I first started, I was building on the side while I still had a corporate job, trying to keep that quiet. But I was all about, I'm kind of running out of time. Now I don't think I'm dying. I didn't think I was dying at this point. It was just like, you know, up till age 47, 48, I'm like, I wasn't really producing very well financially. I'm like, how many more great years do I have left mentally
Hmm.
where I can really make up for lost time? So I was obsessed with time. And so when I realized I started taking on these bigger jobs, I was making more money, but I was making less per hour.
Yeah.
So I got up to like $50 an hour, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to make headway. Took on bigger jobs, went down to $15, $20 an hour when I figured out my effective hourly rate, spending too much time. So it's for the small business owner, profitability is about with brand is number one, let's see what makes you different, right? Let's see what kind of time you're putting in and command a premium client, a premium rate, because we're going to find the thing that you do. So I'll break this down for you. When you talk about, you said earlier on, like, what do you do and how do you help? I'll break it down very simply for anyone who's listening. You're a small business owner. Brand strategy is deep. It's complicated. You know, I've gotten 5 figures for helping companies do this. Small business owners don't have a budget like that. So I had to break it down simply, right? So here it is. It's who you are, who you serve, and what makes you different. So who you are is kind of what you do and, basically what you do, right? Who you serve, who's that ideal client? And it's such an overused phrase, but you really have to know who they are for one thing, the messaging that comes after it, right? So when you're talking, are your ideal clients going, man, she's talking my language. She's for me. She gets me. So when you know who you're talking to, ideal client, you know how to talk to them, messaging, right? So that's who you serve. And then what makes you different? It's what common problem do you solve for a very specific person and do it in a very unique way? When you figure out those three things, you got a recipe for charging premium. Why? Because everybody wants to hire the person who can take away their pain now. Not maybe, not experiment. I mean, not if. And when we hear people say general messages, we go, I'm not sure that they can help. Right? So they're skeptical. Why? Because there's nothing in there that says that you can help me. But Judy, if you have a very specific problem and I go, hey, Judy, here's how I help. Here's what I do. And I name your pain and I take that away in just a couple of weeks. We're done. And you don't have the pain forever. You're going, where do I sign up? Right? Because you got a business to run. Profitability is at stake. You need it taken away right away. Success favors speed. So when you get the problem taken away immediately, people will pay a premium for certainty.
Very interesting. Yeah. You're so well spoken. And I know that you are also a public speaker on stage doing a lot of keynote speaking, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've done speaking. I've done less recently, but over the years, I've spoken in various parts of the country, live on stage. I also do obviously virtual things as well.
Yeah, no, you're very well spoken and clearly understand the brand very, very well. As a if I understand correctly, a solopreneur, correct? It's just you're a
Yes.
one-man band.
Yes.
What do you face as your biggest challenges throughout the course of the years? What are some of the hurdles that you had to overcome as you became a successful solo entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think everybody can relate, and the reason I'm solo is by choice. When I started my company, I wanted something that I can take with me wherever I go. I didn't want an office, so I didn't become an agency. My office is in my home, and I wanted to be able to just pack my laptop and me and my wife jump on a plane, and if we're down in Miami or Nashville or it doesn't matter where, and I need to work, I just pop it open to work. I didn't want any boundaries, so that's why I stay solo. I don't really, and in these days with all the tools you can do it. But some of the hurdles, honestly, yes, as a solopreneur, you have to do everything that needs to be done. But I'll tell you, the biggest hurdle is when you listen to a lot of people tell you what works for them and what you should do, you believe them. Why? Because what they're doing is working for them, and you're questioning what you're doing. So, for instance, I spent a lot of time listening to people and then changing my strategy because people be like, man, if you're not on social media, let's pick one. If you're not on Instagram, man, I got 200,000 followers on Instagram. Most of my business comes through there. I knew this brand strategist. That's what he did. He got Instagram. So I went on. I'm like, oh, I better stop YouTube and go to Instagram. So I went to Instagram and I failed spectacularly there. I'm very proud to say. Didn't find that. And somebody else is like, well, you need to do webinars all the time. So I started doing webinars all the time. And it's not that these things don't work. Anything can work marketing wise for you as long as you commit, figure it out, and do it consistently over a long period of time. Anything can work. And so, as solopreneurs, we tend to not understand what we have to do to make things work because we're too busy listening to other people tell you how they're getting success. And you go, maybe I should do that. So, I learned how to focus. Focus is massive because, I tell people all the time they don't really understand what focus means. They're like, oh, yeah, I know I'm supposed to, just do one thing. Well, yes, but when you understand the power of focus, you will actually do only one thing and you'll figure it out. The sun shines on a rock, right? And it warms the rock. But you focus that light into a laser beam and it cuts through the rock, right? That's the power of focus. So you take all your energies and your attention, you focus into one thing. So um, I went to LinkedIn about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was previously doing live networking, like in person, virtual, but like in person, live networking, meeting business owners here and there. And I did well with that, but honestly, that kind of was too slow for me.
Okay.
So I'm like, I need to jump back on social media where, your audience is infinite. But where do I go? Well, TikTok is sticky and everybody's going there and it's so great. And and Instagram is amazing for visual people. And well, I'm a visual guy. Maybe I should go there. But YouTube, YouTube, they pay you all these, you can make all this money from YouTube with the affiliates and the ads and all that. Well, maybe I should do that. And I decided, no, I'm going to LinkedIn. Why? LinkedIn to me is one of the greatest places where you can go and network and market and sell and meet people and develop relationships and write content, get to be a better writer. You can put video on there. You can do visuals on there. So you can design some stuff if that's your thing. And I only show up there. So
Oh,
focus is the solopreneur's biggest asset that they don't know how to do because they haven't decided to pick a channel and just stick it out and figure it out. My kids, I
yeah.
got 4 kids. They hate when I say this because I don't just give them answers. I don't give them answers. I'm like, I'll guide them and I'll be like, you got to figure out the rest. But what do I do? I said, just figure it out. If you honestly get stuck, I'll help you, but go figure it out and come back to me with what you found. And the reason I do that is not to be a pain, not to be, I'm not a masochist. Like I want to see you real in pain. But the thing is, when we figure things out, we understand them better so that when circumstances change, we know how to change with them in order to sustain success, right? Because if somebody hands you success, you don't know what they did, right? You're screwed. So you have to pay somebody to get you success, or you have to figure it out yourself. And for the solopreneur, you got to figure it out yourself because you got no money.
Yeah. Well, and focus is such key. Like you just mentioned, focus is something I have a hard time with. Just in life in general, I can be doing a task, and it's just like my brain works all the time, very fast. If I could look inside of it, I'm sure there's a whole sloth full of rats just running that race in there. It just doesn't stop. But what I appreciate about what you do is you chose one lane, LinkedIn. That's it. And you mastered it using your words earlier, doing something that, you see others maybe aren't doing and you're nailing it. And for me, like that's a key takeaway. Just stop listening to the noise and focus on one alley and just stick to it. I mean, that's for today. That's my takeaway. Hopefully the audience is also getting plenty of takeaways from everything that you have mentioned. So super appreciate what you're saying there. Uh, if you don't mind, I'm going to rattle off what I like to say the lightning round, where I'm going to just ask you questions and just shoot at the hip and let me know what comes top of mind for you. You ready for this, Rob?
I'm ready. I like this.
Okay. All right. Lightning round. Here we go. In one sentence, what makes a brand forgettable?
Copying people.
Like it.
Keep copy another brand that's doing well, and you will be invisible.
Nailed that one. All right. What's one word small business owners should stop using immediately?
More. I need more clients. I need more revenue. I need more visibility. I more is dangerous because it goes against focus.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. All right. Better to be polished or memorable?
Well, listen, if you're polished and your space is dirty, then you stand out. So that will make you memorable. So again, we go back to differentiation. It's all about looking around and going, can I tell a really a 10-second story?
Absolutely.
So when I first started networking early on, I went to a luncheon. I came out of corporate. I went to a networking event. It was a luncheon at a very popular place where everybody in my county, and it's a sizable county, all the business leaders go there. And I walk in a room and there's 150 suits, men, women, suits everywhere. I walk in black boots, black jeans, a logoed pullover, my kind of wraparound glasses, this facial hair that you see here. And I just sidle up to a guy just looking around and I didn't pick him. He's just standing there. And he looks over at me and goes, "Boy, you really stand out here. What do you do?" Right? So that opened up the conversation. So if it was opposite, right? If I pull into a biker rally, not that I'm going to be accepted, but if I pull up and I'm well polished and well dressed and clean cut, you stand out. If you're looking to stand out, that's what you got to do. You got to go against what everybody around you is doing and looking like.
Yeah. Okay. Again, you're nailing this shit, Rob. I'm impressed. I am impressed. You're like, I mean, you're not even thinking.
What I do.
This is what you do. You're good. All right, here we go. What's the biggest brand red flag you can spot in under 10 seconds?
Gimmicks. Gimmick. So Judy, I write about this. I rant about this. So I usually label because I don't like to like all over LinkedIn. You see these gimmicks. And I'm going to call him out because he'll never know me, and it's totally fine. But Gary, we know that if you listen to Gary Vee for 5 minutes, you're going to hear about 150 curse words, right? And I heard him say, he played his clip of a woman who approached him one time and was like, "Why do you curse so much?" And he said, "Because I have to be who I am. I have to be authentic." And though I learn a lot from him, and he gave me one key thing that I've taken with me today that has helped me a lot. And I do like him and I respect what he's done. He's just wrong because cursing is a gimmick. You cannot curse and still be you, right? And look, I curse, but I only curse when my emotions rise. I don't curse every other word because that's who I am. That to me just doesn't make any sense. So when I write about this stuff, I talk about, look, gimmicks are not going to build a strong brand for you, right? They're just gimmicks and people see right through them. So there I always joke about the financial advisor who wears a green tie, right? I met this guy one time. It's like, like what makes you different? He goes, "Well, I wear a green tie." And I go, "So?" He goes, "Well, I stand out." I'm like, "But what does it mean?" And, he was like, "Ah," right? I saw this business coach one time on LinkedIn, and all her photos, she was wearing a colorful cowboy hat. And then, I actually was in a room with her one time, and she was not wearing a cowboy hat, and I saw videos of her, and she was not wearing a cowboy hat. I'm like, "Is she a cowboy or is she not a cowboy?" I got a cowboy hat, but I don't wear it as a gimmick. I got cowboy. I love country music. I listen to country music all day long. It's kinda who I am, right? So that's why I have a cowboy hat, but I don't use it to make you go, "Hey, who's this person?" So if you got a gimmick, stop it. Like, stop using gimmicks. They're going to hurt you because you're not being authentic. You're just trying to do something to stop somebody from scrolling to get their attention. It's like, and maybe it's just me, Judy, but it's like when I see somebody like that, and then I meet with them and they don't show up like I see them all over the place,
Yeah.
like something's not right. And when people have that feeling inside, they may not say that. In their mind, they may just go, "Huh, you know what that means? Something's not right. I don't trust you." So you kill
Ooh.
trust with gimmicks.
Ooh. That's a real good you kill trust with gimmicks. Ooh, Rob.
It's
I
all about
like it.
trust. All about trust.
Ah, that's really good. Okay, one more for you. What's one brutally honest question every founder should ask about their brand today?
The brutally honest question I would ask, it goes back to kind of what I just talked about. And if they're representing the face of the brand, I'm going to assume they are, right? Because I work with people who represent the face of their brand. Am I being real? It's they have to ask that because kind of like the gimmick thing, a lot of founders will put forth some kind of persona that they want you to believe about themselves. And when people get to know you and they find out that's not true, again, you've destroyed trust. So what's hard about that is, can you look at yourself objectively? Can you put yourself in your audience's shoes and see you? Because if you can do that and always be real, you're gonna have an easier time. It runs a lot deeper. I spent many, many years studying the psychology of why people behave the way they do. And the thing about it is, um, when you are not being real, what you're actually doing is you're creating tactics to make people be attracted to you. And different from gimmicks, gimmicks are like I talk about the top hat or the green tie, but tactics in marketing, maybe some of the words you use or some of the ways you go about business that might be a little bit deceitful, but you trying to play them off as real. Um, you put up this facade, and it's what I was doing unconsciously, right? That corporate mask I wore for 25 years was still on, but I didn't know it until one day I realized and I pulled it off, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is not who I am." No wonder nobody was paying attention to me. So I just got real with myself, and look, if I was on a panel one time at a LinkedIn local with 4 other people, and the mediator, now, again, here we are. There's 4 other people in suits, and here's Rob at the end of the panel speaking to a room of about 300 business owners, and I'm dressed the way I'm dressed, the way you described, right? Not in a suit, not not clean shaven, not dirty, not, but a little rough. And she actually said, "Okay, Rob, I have a question for you. What would you say to somebody who says that you don't dress professionally?" And I was like, I don't like people turning screws on me, but, if you're gonna give it, you're gonna get it. So I was just like, and I told the truth, and the truth is the truth no matter how you package it. The truth is this, I said, and most of the panelists, they give 5-minute answers. I was like, "No, I'm just gonna put this to bed right away." And I said, a lot of people think that you have to dress a certain way in order to be professional, quote unquote professional. But honestly, what people see as professional is somebody who can get results for them. and they don't give a rip how you dress. I said, I get results for people. And I left it at that. And look, I had people come up to me after me and just be like, what a great answer. Now I'm sure there's some people who are like, I don't like him. But that's okay, right? This is what I'm talking about. If you're not real, right? If I said that as an act, and then I got off there and I was so nervous, and maybe I went home and I changed into my, regular clothes, because I'm always wearing my regular clothes. By the way, if you see me out, it's how you see me now. Like, it's just the way I dress. So you have to be real, but you have to be able to see who you really are. And here it is. You talked about my book, Don't Fear the Brand. Don't be afraid that people are going to reject you as you are. When actually the opposite happens, when you're vulnerable and you put out your real self, you will attract people closer because people want to follow real people.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Pen drop moment. Like that, literally, yeah, you it's almost like I need to put you in my pocket and pull you out whenever I need a little confidence boost or a little motivational speech.
You
It's
got it,
such
Judy.
yeah, no, this is wonderful. We'll give a shout out to our listeners. Tell us where they can find you, where they can get your book. If somebody wants to get a hold of you and talk a little bit more about brand for their business, share with us how we can reach you.
Sure. Well, I have some good news. And, I don't know if people are going to be seeing this, but this is my book, Don't Fear the Brand. Actually, it just came out last December of
Okay.
2025. Don't Fear the Brand. And I wrote this book not because I wanted to call myself an author, which a lot of people do. I wrote it because I had a message. And inside this book, which is in two phases, the first phase, the first part is about my journey discovering, kind of what I was so afraid of, because I was afraid of a lot of things. I was paralyzed with fear into my 30s of talking to people, if you can believe that. I mean, paralyzed. And there's some good stories in here, to help people, because I felt it was necessary, because I see too many business owners, they're afraid. The reason they don't build a strong brand, the number one reason, Judy, they're afraid of putting themselves out there in a real and differentiated way, because they don't want to get tomatoes thrown at them. The second part of the book is about brand strategy, what you can do to actually build a strong brand. So I'm going to give this free to your listeners. Okay. So if you're listening to this, I'm going to give it to you. Just go to my website, which is buildstrongbrands.com/free book. All one word, free book. Buildstrongbrands.com/free book. And you're not just going to get a chapter or two, you're going to get the full digital version of this book. You could also find it on Amazon if you want to get the hard copy. That's great. I love a good hard copy. But for your listeners, for listening, that's my gift to them. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn. You cannot miss me. Rob Genovesi on LinkedIn. You'll see my company, Build Strong Brands. I'm not massive there yet. I got about 4,600 followers, but I do have very high engagement, because I do put out very valuable content and commentary with other people, so we can engage and create more value for each other. A rising tide raises all ships. So you can find me on LinkedIn.
That's fantastic. I will put all of those links in the show notes so that you can easily access and get in touch with Rob and fill out the information to get your free book for sure. What a wonderful gift. I appreciate that, Rob. That's
Got it,
so
Judy.
fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I had a blast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Loved having you on, and thank you for listening, and we'll talk to everybody here soon. Thanks so much. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Founders Hustle. I would absolutely love to know what resonated with you the most from today's guest. Go ahead and drop me a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Also, if there's a future topic that you'd like me to touch on, go ahead and drop that in the comments as well. But no matter where you're watching or streaming your favorite shows, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on social media. Tell a friend about this. I would love the support. But in the meantime, keep living, keep growing, and keep hustling, because you are meant to do great things. See you next week.